Thanks for tuning into the Texas Scratch King channel. Please don't forget to subscribe. Like and share this video. A good interesting story by Dogman Captain Ben. Captain Ben begins with, in the early 80s, we had many decent dogmen in North America. I was friendly with most of the good dogmen. And I was especially close to the ones from Pa. One day I was in Red's house and he showed me a black dog and asked me what I thought of him. I told him in my opinion that the dog could not win anything. And hence, this black dog was called Chainsaw. Red B is a much better man than me and he said he was going to match the dog into STP. Many people including Red had a good relation with STP. And I always thought STP had an eye for the dogs. I thought that STP avoided any tough competition. Because in those days hardcore used to challenge STP regularly and again I thought STP was not willing to scratch. Just my opinion. However, I knew STP had a good eye for the dogs. So in a roll or a match, if he sees a good dog, he will buy the dog. Find some beginners to match this dog $200 and then make him a champion. Champion etc. and sell for big money to Europeans, Asians, Russians etc. Nothing wrong. A good businessman. As usual STP will not leave his kitchen so Red had to go all the way to STP. Willie here should be able to correct any of my details because I am sure he remembers more than me. Red wins the match, where Chainsaw's both the legs were broken and still he scratched on 2 stumps and won the fight. To be frank, till this date I have never seen such a thing with my own eyes. I see in European and Russian reports regularly dogs breaking both legs, shoulders, jaw etc. and after 2 months the same dogs fighting again. I have no comments on that because it is Russia and Europe where every dog loses dead game. Anyway, Chainsaw wins this match and is retired for good. Now you guys can see how little I know about these matters when I said that Chainsaw should be put down. Chainsaw's father was a dog called Mojo, who was very hard biting dog but would not scratch, in my view, a rough cur. Yes, a cur. Red B offered me Chainsaw to breed. And for once I broke my guiding principle. And bred one of my good bitches and I got a few pups and as agreed sent Red B a few pups. All my pups were extremely strong. And they would fight ferociously. But when taken to the corner, they would not scratch. Just like their grandfather. All the pups I had out of Chainsaw and my bitch were the same, will not scratch, in my opinion, just curs. I got rid of a few mine by the time they were 18 months and Red felt I was too harsh. So I sent Red all the remaining young dogs out of the litter. Red kept them till they were 3 years old. And not one of them came out of their corner. I am sure Willie also had some pups out of Chainsaw. Who proved himself was a very game dog. But his father was a cur. To me, I will not breed when I know there is a cur in the past 3 generations. That is me. What you guys conclude and come to different decisions is a matter of philosophy. Around the mid-80s the American dog scene started sliding fast into an abyss. I could see this coming a long time ago. And I spoke up and for that I was disliked. I have stopped my subscription to SDJ and I was a member when it started as hand-printed magazine. The first edition coming out in 1970. After mid-80s, more match reports were just a product of imagination. Most drug dealers came into the dogs. Either they bought dogs or they stole them. And people thought nothing about buying a stolen dog. Stealing dogs came very common in USA. I remember the time when a dog was stolen from Andre Giroux. He went straight to the thief's house, knocked at the door, shot the thief right in his stomach and took the dog back home. There was no more dog stealing in Canada. Andre spent a few years in jail for that. Those were times when the law did consider the circumstances. Not only the matches were fake. And in the real matches if the wager was $300 it was written as $30,000. If the match went 15 minutes it was written as 1 hour 15 minutes. There was no more truth. Everything was spiraling down. Roll was written up as a match. A man was beginning to be known by the name of the dog. Everybody knew the art dog. But not many did not know the owner. You understand what I mean. Many people got out of dogs because they did not want to get involved with the drug dealers and the pimps and the thieves. It did not matter to me. I fought them all. And I burned their pockets. Good dogman was scared of the money of these drug dealer. To me it did not matter where the money came from. The moment I cut the people to 5 or 6 to a side. The drug dealers had no more big money to bet. Maybe some of the members here like Wardog may remember these characters. I will just call him Logue. One of the bigwigs of street business in Columbia SC. He had a 4XW called Hawk. I fought this hawk with as much money they could muster with a 16-month dog I had. This would be around 91 to 92. These guys were getting dogs from Pitbull Rick. Kirby Chavis and such people. So I never even hesitated for 1 minute. Logan Company wanted to match for 40,000 and I said okay. When the day came to put the forfeit they reduced to 10,000 and they had problem to put the full forfeit, so I gave them 2 more days. When it was over, the 4XW Hawk tried to jump the pit in 40 minutes. They lost their ill-gotten money and never bothered me again. I think even today they will not speak bad about me. You can beat their dog for $300. They are back barking like the curs. But you hit them hard in their pocket. They respect you and are gone forever. This is the same today. All these guys tell me they fight dogs not for money, but for the sport. Lol, many of you are rich that you can afford the luxury of matching dog as a pastime. As a sport. I cannot, as I make my living from this sport. There are many things we do not speak, and much of that we take to the grave. Nobody has talked about the sequence of events after a dog called Pit General was stolen. It is of no consequence to anyone anything which happened afterward. Mr. Mayfield's then partner, Jimmy Job, was shot and killed. I am not sure Ricky Jones is alive or dead. It does not make any difference. Ricky Jones can be credited with changing the whole dog scene. He is the modern-day dogman who started using kennel name. Rebel Kennels. Before, the kennel names were used by people who was showing pretty dogs in pretty dog shows. And Ricky Jones had come from such a background. Jones had champions and grand champions and many dogs with title. There must be somebody on this board who had matched a dog with Ricky Jones. Anybody. I can predict. If anybody has done it, the guy had to go to Ricky's house in a very good party on drugs and alcohol. And matched his dog for maximum $500 and lost the fight fast. This was the typical of Ricky's fight. Ricky gave the impression that he fights dog for much money and most believed it. Ricky wanted to challenge me because I had called him a $300 dogman. We talked once on the phone and I told him I will meet him halfway, which he refused. Kenneth Allen phoned me once and said that he was planning to match 4 dogs with Ricky Jones going to his place, and I advised him strongly against it. Kenneth matched these dogs for considerable amount of money, and I make it a point to find details about possible opponents well in advance, so I knew all about Ricky Jones' finances. Kenneth had no chance to win. If he won, then he would be getting paid with fake money. Kenneth lost all 4 fights in a manner which was dubious to Kenneth, and then he talked to me again. I simply shrugged my shoulder and said, "You made the decision. So you pay. That is all you can do as a man with honor." Then he told me this, "Captain, now I understand why you do not go to people's house and insist they meet you in the middle. Ricky Jones was not busted for drugs or dogs. He was busted for counterfeit money. This was the time millions and millions of counterfeit US money was circulated in USA. Presumably by Saddam Hussein of Iraq. No government will tolerate their economy to be sabotaged. Ricky was just a small fly. But they needed information. This I believe to be the facts of the matter. Rubbing dogs or rearing its ugly head again. Everywhere you have to be extremely careful. If you bring them out of their country, meet halfway. Then the chances of foul play is reduced greatly. Flip Boy can verify this if he wants to, as he is just an innocent bystander. I was in Philippines just recently. 2 good guys made a match in front of me. So I suggested to both. After you have washed your dogs, each person take a clean sponge and wipe his own dog and squeeze a few drops in his own dog's mouth. People who matches dogs will understand why and for what, etc. ECT. Both parties agreed immediately. Flip Boy can comment if he wants to. This I will insist in all matches. And if a party does not want to do it, then it is better I find someone else to match. Looking at the records of champions and grand champions in the Sporting Dog Journal, you may come across a dog named Z-Boy. I am not sure if he was a grand champion or just a champion. The record also will show that the owner is Pitbull Rick or Magic Pit Kennel. I will narrate here one his glorious fights. I was at this time living in South Carolina with a few dogs. On my way to the town of Orangeburg, I had to pass Pitbull Rick's house. This was the time all the guys most of you heard of, like Chavis, Tant, Pitbull Rick, Diamond Dan, Hilltop Mike, Gangbusters, Texas Ron, Melvin Gainey, Sandhill Chris, and many more were based in South Carolina. I moved to South Carolina looking for battles. I do not want to go on a tangent. So let me stick with Z-Boy. Naturally, Rick has been sort of condition all the time. One keeping Z-Boy in some day around 1700 on my way back home. I stopped over at Pitbull Rick. It was not a good day for Rick as he had not sold any dog for 2 days and he was broke and he was trying to get some money to put some food on the table. Please, you have not misunderstood, that is the way a few dogmen lived. Day to day. And if they did not sell a dog in a week, they had problems for them to survive. In praise of Rick, I must say he was one of the few who made sure his dogs ate before he ate. And for this one reason I tolerated Rick with all his misgivings. He told me that no fish came and he had to get some money as he was desperate. If I could lend him $50 for a few hours, he could make a match with Texas Ron. Ron usually got onto hard liquor by 10 o'clock in the morning and by evening he would be hammered and Rick wanted to catch him and make a match that night. He got on the phone and within a few minutes made a match for his Z-Boy. Naturally Rick kept his dog in half-decent shape hoping to catch someone like Texas Ron. The match to take place within 3 hours. The match was for $50. Z-Boy versus Texas Ron's Vodka. Yes, the name of the dog was Vodka. I think this was Z-Boy's third or fourth fight. Somebody could post the wins of Z-Boy. Within 2 hours Rick was in Texas Ron's place and I just tagged along to protect my $50. Law. Because of the short notice. There were not many people and I was banking on that. But there were about 15 people or so. This dog Vodka was a better dog. But kept by a drunk. Who came right off the chain. Z-Boy won. Rick collected the $50 and I got my $50 back. And one more win for the dog who will become champion or grand champion. These are the facts I have seen with my own eyes. Rick and Kirby Chavis sending dogs to faraway places. Selling these dogs for $3,000–4,000. The dogs they buy from flea markets. Shave their tail of thick bushy hair and sell them as Red Boy Jocko. Only if people have the eyes to see. Most will get out of these dogs because most of them have the product from people like Kirby Chavis, Pitbull Rick, Norrid and so on and so forth. This is how we lost our heritage. Two key figures in this narrative is no more with us. They are Pitbull Rick and Ratliff, untouchable. All this happened in the early 90s and I was in the thick of things as I had moved to South Carolina looking for opponents. Pitbull Rick had already moved to South Carolina from New York and operating under the name Pit Magic Kennels. Maybe Magic Pit Kennels. The dog Daisy May was bred and owned by Rick and I have seen this bitch in his yard as an old bitch. He bred this Daisy May to Buck when STP owned Buck. Out of that breeding came Buctus and some other dogs named Leaky and Saline etc. etc. All these dogs were bred by Pitbull Rick. Rick in my view was a very good person at heart. But he had his personal demons to fight and also had to fight the monkey on his back. I still keep in touch with his widow and she has seen more about dogs than most of us will ever see. In my rough estimate Pitbull Rick might have dealt in over 3,000 dogs in his life. Because he lived by dealing dogs. I have written the same narrative when Untouchable and Rick was living, so I am not writing something when the main players are not living anymore. Rick rolled this Buctus when he was very young and did not like him. And sold him to his neighbor Marin Kennels, a start-up kennel, for $50. Marin Kennel kept Buctus for some time. Rolled him and did not like him. So sold to Bubba Davis aka Diamond Dan for $50. Bubba did not like the dog and exchanged Buctus to the veteran Ratliff. After Ratliff getting Buctus, there appeared in Sporting Dog Journal 2 reports about Buctus winning matches. No one in that area knew who Buctus won against and started pointing fingers at Ratliff. To put the end to all these whispering, Tom decided to make a match in front of all the naysayers in South Carolina area. Ratliff got in touch with his friend Scrapyard Mike and asked his help to find a proper opponent in the local area. Scrapyard Mike quickly found the opponent in Marin Kennels, the same guy who had Buctus from Pitbull Rick. Marin Kennels has been in dogs at this time about 2 to 3 years and had at that time a dog of dubious breeding supposed to be a cross with a bull terrier or something like that. So the match was set between Buctus and Marin Kennels terrier cross dog. I think the wager was $100. This is where the game loss happened to Buctus in about 40 minutes, I am not sure of the time. After this game loss there was another win for Buctus. Again, no one in the area knew about the opponents. If any one of you have access to Buctus 4 matches is reported in the Sporting Dog Journal. It will be nice if you can post it here. I stopped getting Sporting Dog Journal in the late 80s because I could see that most of the matches reported were pure fiction. The above are the facts in a nutshell. What Buctus produced etc. is not known to me personally except what I have read in various publications. It is possible that Buctus could have produced excellent dogs. But the above is a narrative based on facts that I personally know. It will be interesting to hear from others who has personal knowledge regarding any other related facts. Malice towards none. Things were not always as appeared to the outside world. Once. It so happened. I was with Tom and he said he was going to see and do some dog deals with Wildside. We pulled up to his driveway and Ed greeted Tom warmly and they went about their business. Tom had a chainsaw not working, some small problems, and a gasoline-powered lawn mower which also had some malfunction. Tom did manage to trade these 2 items for a first-class match dog and a prospect. On the ride back, Tom asked me if I wanted to buy the match dog for a brand new lawnmower. As Tom had no more lawnmower to cut grass in his dog yard. Ed is still around. Maybe not so free. But I knew him when he lived in the cold country. Way up north. At that time he was working in a pet food store and he had bought 2 dogs, pit bulls of course. He then invited his coworker to come and see the wonderful sport of dog fighting. So the coworker came and Ed did roll the 2 dogs for a few minutes. And the coworker promptly reported that to the police. This is the dog fighting bust he is referring in his book. Now about the lawnmower. In those days, Bubba Davis aka Diamond Dan, Grand Champion Ms. Panther fame, was one of the top dogmen in South Carolina. At least I was told so by Diamond Dan and his partner Hilltop Mike. They had this special keep called Lawn Mower Keep. The dog was securely tied up with a heavy chain and the lawnmower was started. And the dog goes into a frenzy, so after securing the lawnmower they go and have couple of beers and come back after an hour or so. You can imagine the condition the dog would be in when they told me how they will condition their dogs by lawnmower keep. I truly admired these guys because they knew about maximum stress before the late Millmaker thought of the word even. Maybe someone more familiar with this lawnmower keep can compare this to hand walking or the treadmill. There are many keeps, just like there are many bloods. And I do not want to give out all the secrets. For the lawnmower keep. If you are a novice, it may be a good idea to remove the blades. And better idea not to use this in your garage where most of you may be working your canine athletes. I am of the opinion men of the past were much better than the ones we see today. The dogs were much better in every aspect. I give below a write-up by George Reed in the 1920s about game dogs. He describes them as 3 types. In his own words. The sticker. And that is about all. Here is the proverbial mutt. Anyway, that is what he looks like out of the pit. But, boys, beware, game dogs of this type is generally closely inbred. Thus accounting for their many weaknesses. Likewise remember doubly intensifying their gameness. They area bare for absorbing punishment. Seeming to actually like it and thrive on it. Their fighting instinct is ever present. But the other dog's superior strength carries the fight from the start. Some specimens of this type even go so far to lay around and let their opponent chew and throw them all over the pit. Until he becomes exhausted and then they stagger up all bloody. And repay the debt in full. Winning the fight. The best example of this type one know of in this part of the country is owned at present by F.H. McLean. Patty Mac Colby Country Bloodlines. The above was written and published in 1926. I can say from my personal experience. Don Maloney and Andre Giroux of Montreal had a few of these wonderful deep game stickers. Thanks for listening to the Texas Scratch King channel. Until the next time, my friends, as we always say, never submit to life and keep scratching every time.